I'm going to just read you these words that are on the screen behind me. Perhaps, pardon, I'm getting over the sniffles that I picked up while I was at the astrological conference last weekend, but I'm on the mend. Perhaps the goal of astrology is not to predict the future as much as to mold the future through our choices and actions. Sit with that, if you will. Kind of let it filter through the background of where we're going to wander as we consider this next week that is going to be unfolding. Now, last week was brought to us by Mercury, which entertained us through Mercury's, well, it's got a couple different flavors to it because it rules two different signs, one being Gemini, which is where the sun is right now, the other being Virgo. Now, the Virgo and Mercury is trying to get stuff organized into a meaningful context, kind of like that phrase that's up behind me here. Mercury and Gemini, I'm going to read you a couple of words to actually consider here about this, because that's where Mercury is right now. It's in Gemini, and this is another week that is going to be brought to us by Mercury, and I'm going to dive into that just a little bit deeper, but not right this second. People, this is from Stephen Forrest. People carrying such Geminian energy make fresh trouble. That's Mercury and Gemini. They ask questions, find the loose ends, and they help to keep things alive. Can you feel that Gemini curiosity in there? Oh, yeah. Now, last week, actually near the end of last week, Mercury was invited. It was traveling on the far side of our solar orb. And while it was there, it moved within the same degree of the sun. And I mentioned that when a planet moves into that particular zone, 1 degree, half a degree on either side of where the sun is, it's called Cassini. And in such an instance, the regality, that essential leadership of a king or a queen, some person in authority, the sun representing that, provides an invitation to whatever that planetary energy is that is that conjoined with it to basically be given permission to present what it's thinking. Well, we're talking Mercury here in Gemini, so that idea of asking questions, stirring things up, it was on the plate as we ended last week. Well, to continue along the lines of this Mercurial dance, we're going to take Mercury and we're going to basically give it another essential foothold that is, it's derived from the process of the planetary dance. And if you look at a global image of the Earth. I could probably pull one up, but I'm just going to describe it to you. On the Earth, there are two tropic lines, the Tropic of Cancer up at the top and the Tropic of Capricorn down here at the bottom. They form a line around the planet. You have to tilt the planet, on its side 23 degrees 26 minutes. And those lines are the demarcations within which the Sun and Saturn basically do not wander beyond in a north-south direction. I'm not talking about the longitude of the planets going around. And the other planets often will wander out beyond that 23 degrees 26 minutes north or south, thus traveling into the zone beyond those lines of the tropics, Cancer and Capricorn. And I'm going to read you a little bit. And when they do, the term given to them is they are out of bounds, If you consider the bounds as being, that solar directive that says that this is what we need to pay attention to. And try not to think out of the box. Well, I'm an Aquarius, and I have a saying, it's, I got no time for this thinking box. But let's just step back into that Gemini thing. What is an out-of-bounds planet? Well, the golden sun, this is from the book called Declination by Paul Newman, not the actor. The golden sun not only gives us life on Earth, but is unfailingly constant in its heavenly movement. The sun, which marks the boundaries of our seasons, moves within its own designated limits and can therefore never be out of bounds. Most of the other planets, however, do occasionally tip over the sun's boundary lines in either northern or southern declination, which is a north-south movement. Most commonly, a planet that is out of bounds will be in the zodiac signs of the zodiac signs bordering the solstices, that is Gemini or Cancer or Sagittarius or Capricorn, because the solstices are the farthest boundaries of the sun. That was those lines at 23, 26 north and south that I was talking about. These four signs have mutable and cardinal qualities, not dissimilar to the animated, restless energy of the out-of-bounds pattern. As a general rule, you can insert any or all of the following adjectives in front of the normal astrological keywords for a planet to arrive at its additional meaning when it is out of bounds. Now, the reason that I'm bringing this up is because this is again going to be a Mercury week, but even more profound than that, this is a Mercury cycle that we are entering, because Mercury today, June 1st, is going to go out of bounds from now until the 22nd of June. So Mercury's going to be out of bounds for a while. So we're not done with our Mercurial energy. And it's in Gemini, Do you feel like Possibly there might be questions that are being asked that don't have easy answers. Here are those terms that you can insert as an adjective before considering how you want to play your Gemini or how the Mercurial nature is being tweaked. Unrestrained, extreme, independent, wild, awkward, vulnerable, privileged, magnified. Can you feel those terms? Feral is another good word. For example, an out-of-bounds moon could display wildly developed instincts in general, plus an intuitive ability to assess public taste. An extreme awareness of atmosphere may at times be a privilege, but at others, a vulnerability. With independence, emotions, and feelings that can swing wildly from agency, from agony to ecstasy, the out-of-bounds phenomena can be an awkward as well as privileged gift. When I woke up this morning, I was wrestling with some thoughts that had to do with, well, let me just read you what I wrote down. What is the version of life on Earth that you are seeking? And what are you willing to contribute to its manifestation? Go back to that saying, perhaps the goal of astrology is not to predict the future as much as it is to mold future through our choices and actions. The invitation from the astrological matrix that this particular week holds in store for us for the next several weeks is of that Mercury out of bounds nature. It's in Gemini now, but it will be moving into Cancer. But just tuning in for the moment, here's our Mercury right down here. It's just moved a little beyond that Cassini dance that it was doing with the Sun. Still in Gemini. It's going to be catching up with Jupiter probably, by the end of the week. At the very last degree of Gemini when they get together. And, I look at this and I kind of go, my own particular chart happens to have 28 degrees of Aquarius rising. This Jupiter at 28 degrees of Gemini is forming an almost perfect trine with my ascendant. So I can feel the potential push, if you will, from Jupiter to the ascendant of my chart. And the ascendant is kind of like a hello world, here I am version of you. And being in Aquarius, this version for me says, who all is willing to get on a wavelength that, has some of that potential unpredictability quality to it that is out of the box. And this particular configuration of Jupiter in trine to that right now, they're both air signs. There's an intellectual or mental stimulation at one level that is trying to, paint the potential for a larger picture of what it is that, from the Aquarian perspective, I'm only giving you mine, how is it that we come together? And what is it that we share in those moments of togetherness that are the reason why we're drawn to consider things one with another? This is that, this is essentially me. And not everyone's going to be able to get on board with that. But I want to let you know that right now, with Mercury going out of bounds today for another 3 weeks, our thoughts, Mercury, Gemini, this is levels of so many different kinds of things. I look at, Aquarius. I mean, look at Gemini kind of energy. We got, here, let me throw out some words. Communicative. Yeah, Gemini words. Communicative, youthful, knowledgeable, mental, versatile, carefree, logical. Yeah, sometimes. Quick-witted, clever, dexterous, spontaneous, flexible, trivial, light-hearted, curious, variety-seeking, adaptable, mobile, perceptive, intelligent, comical. Have you ever heard the term trickster being applied to this particular Mercurial character? There are two sides afoot in that Gemini land. Castor and Pollux, perhaps, but more along the lines of, variations that are perhaps vying for attention that are not the same. And yet at the same time, the requirement for these, seemingly what shall I say, discongenial versions, yeah, both required so that we don't become too stuck in our ways. And, you can almost sense and feel the lighthearted quality of that Mercury Gemini kind of energy that says, feed me more information. I am curious. What else is there? And this is the kind of energy, from those people who aren't too tuned into the astrological dance. We each have all 12 of these signs and all the planets and so many other points at work within the matrix of who we are all the time. So we're in a season of Mercury right now. You have a Mercury somewhere in the matrix of who you are that is currently being stimulated. And the stimulation of a Mercury out of bounds, Make sure that as the adventure of this exploration is underway for these next 3 weeks, and right now, that, you aren't too stuck with, versions of your reality that aren't willing to expand and grow. After all, what is the version of life on Earth that you are seeking? We're in a time frame right now where my sensing, at least for me, is up. And I want to know, what am I willing to contribute into the manifestation of a version of life on Earth that is sustainable? And as I was considering this morning, and my, those moments just prior to and as awakening was transpiring, I really, really hope that there's a global version for what it means in our human conscience to actually engage with each other and all of life in each moment without preconceived, restrictive perspectives that, are going to make interaction with others a substantial challenge because of versions of what someone may have put out there that are anything but flexible. There isn't a level of curiosity when you become stuck in a way that says, you are such and such a thing. I'm not going to give you permission to change. Oh, goodness gracious. No, not. We all change. Change is the natural flow of life. This planet, it's been going through changes for billions of years. We are a part of it. We're made up of all the elements of this earthly ball that we live on, as well as the influence of radiations, energies, particles from space that have landed here, that are continuing to land here and asking us, are you really ready to step forward and discover a new version of yourself? Mercury, out of bounds. Yes, I am. Do I know what that is? Not entirely. I hope that in my conversations that I have with others, there's a willingness to, be born new in any moment, to discover a version of myself through the interaction with others that has been awaiting birthing for I don't know how long. But like that saying, the future through our choices and actions is being molded by life experiences itself. Therefore, the willingness to exchange thoughts with others is very much afoot. Keywords for Mercury: perception, thought, a learning style, expression of ideas, skills, and languages. What else does Mercury and Gemini stand for? Short trips, bicycle, motorcycle, walk along the street, kind of neighborhood, Do you know your neighbors? Do you hang out with them? You know, are there aspects of what it is that they represent that, you know, you don't know? After all, that is part of the thing. Your brothers and sisters, these are part of the experience of the Gemini Mercurial dance. There's a, and it's the first level where we get into the marketplace, because Mercury is, you kind of almost take that word Mercury and go mercantile. You know, the Mercury points way back along the way are the corner market setup, a fruit stand at an intersection where life moves by. Good place to set up your fruit stand, to, you know, invite others, share in the produce of what it is that life has brought for us in this moment. Can you feel the potential for the interaction that Mercury and Gemini are about? This is what's afoot right now. You know, the energies of exactly what is transpiring as we go this week, you know, this is Sunday. And on Sunday, we have Venus holding hands with Chiron. And generally, I don't bring up Chiron. It's there. It's a substantial signature that has been, you know, hijacked. Is that, I don't know if that's the appropriate term, but one aspect of that asteroid, Chiron, is the wounded healer. And, you know, people tune into that readily, and it's not hard to grasp why that would be the case, because the version of humanity on planet Earth these days is it's racked by wounds, often self-imposed, but not entirely, placed upon us just because we're here, and often portrayed in such fashion that it is purposely enhanced by those who want to control us, to keep us, you know, contained within the control system, so that we don't, you know, step out of the box, stay in the box of what it means to be under the thumb of some thing or other that says that, you know, if we can manage to keep this control, we will be enhanced. Well, I'm not talking about the general populace being enhanced. Oh, no, no, not. No. The imbalance of our capacities to actually engage at a global level with one another and actually explore what else is there, without the constraints of somebody trying to tell us, you know, don't hook up with those kinds of people because, you know, they've got this, that, or the other thing that is so friggin' negative. You don't want to go there. Perhaps they also have this, that, and the other thing that is magnificent, that's magic, that's exciting to participate in, that is a requirement for who I am and needs to be inspired by, that I'm being kept from because someone says that, no, 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 don't go there. I'm not ready to buy that. No, there's something quite organic about the process of engaging with one another that is right now, this week and for the next 3 weeks, that Mercury out of bounds is, willing to take chances. Be curious. We're back to our Venus Chiron and the wounded healer. Well, the wounded healer is one thing, but how about putting a little bit more focus on the healing side of that equation? Yeah, we all have wounds of some kind, but, it is in the potential for the healing modality. After all, it's a healer. And I'm not going to go into the Chiron story right now, but right now, if you put Chiron in any kind of a situation, you have to ask yourself, what in this situation is being inspired, infused maybe, at least brought into the equation with, some version of discomfort. Often a wound you think is possibly discomfortable. Yeah, it's not comfortable. But at the same time, what's the reason for it? How in the correlated energy patterns of this particular moment might this be applied? Well, we're talking here Venus holding hands with Chiron. Venus is our capacity to engage with the other. There's an infusion of a kind of energy that Venus represents that wants to inspire us to, consider the arts, music, fine arts, dancing. How about the art of living? Actually engaging with life from a Venusian perspective wants to, determine what is its value in this moment. And when you have it dancing with Chiron, you have to go, have there been things that have painted this picture of engaging with the artistic, fun side of life that maybe have been presented in such fashion that, they're challenging to us, Might I sense it as some kind of a wound? Well, what is the wound in? The wound is in our expansive capacities. And Venus right now is saying, as it dances with Chiron today, I want you to heal that wound. If you have a wound in how you interact with another, then, tune into that out of bounds Mercury that is saying, explore it. Take some chances. The life factor of the exchange of energy that we have with one another can and often does bring opportunity for the discovery of new versions of healing modalities that They've always been there. It's just that perhaps they've been kept from us for whatever reasons. And this is an opportunity to, step beyond any limitations that you're trying to hold yourself within or others are trying to hold you within. Be explorative. This is what's afoot. I'm not really going to play anything too far out. You can kind of see that Jupiter is getting ready to. Next week, it's going to move across this line into Cancer. Uranus is not yet, but later on this month is going to do similar and going to move. Oh, well, let's see. Maybe not until next month. Yeah, next month. Anyway, those are big changes, and we'll cover them, but not today. Yeah, that's about all I have for this week. Just, stay curious. That is the key. Stay curious and remember, we are molding a future through our choices and actions that we take. So be wise with what it is that you discover in this life dance that we're on is begging for your attention. That's all for now. Have a good one. Ciao.